Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84, and what I'm going to be attempting today is I'm going to do a little bit of experiment on these are wax apple, roseapple, wax jambu, don't know the exact variety, but these are fresh cuttings. I'm going to attempt to root them, or see if I can root them, because I don't know how fresh the cuttings are, so we don't know what sort of state they're in. But I'm going to try 2 or 3 methods of treating the cuttings, and I'm also going to do a control one where I just put it in water. I have heard that in the right conditions with enough warmth that they can sometimes root in water if you're lucky, so I'm just going to try one of them in water, and then the other 4 I'm going to treat slightly differently. I'm going to use rooting hormone on them to see what happens. And I've sterilised my secateurs, I've sterilised my penknife's actually brand new, so that doesn't need sterilising. So I thought I'd flip the camera around and show you what I'm planning to do and how I'm hoping that I might get lucky and be able to root them, given the fact that I haven't got a heated sealed propagator to use them in. So we'll turn the camera around and I'll explain a bit more. So welcome back again. Now it's getting a little bit dark now, so I'm going to sort of progress with this at a reasonable speed, or as well as I can given the conditions. So basically I've seen several different methods of rooting or trying to root these wax apples. No way of knowing if any of them are particularly successful, but my plan is basically to try one in water, and the other ones I'm going to just treat slightly differently and cut them in different ways to see if they can be encouraged to root. Now, the one in water, which I'll probably use the thinnest one, they've come with arrows on them indicating which way it's up, which is useful because it's not easy to tell. I'm planning to cut this, if I can, at a slant. In fact, what I might do is I think I might just do it with a penknife and see if I can get this at a reasonable slant, so I've got it more exposed to the water than if I just cut them straight across. And I'm actually going to dip this one in a bit of rooting hormone as well, even though it's going into water, because that will kind of still cling to the stem in the glass of water, and we'll see what happens. Now, the other ones I've got 4 cuttings to try, and I'm going to seal them in their own miniature greenhouse. So basically I've just taken a squash bottle, which I have cut 2 or 3 little holes in the bottom, and I'm going to stand this on a little plastic tray so that if I water it, the water will only run into the tray and not all over the floor. I'm using an open fibrous compost here, which I bought a bag of. It's not a rooted, it's not a 511 mix, and it's not a seed compost, it's just a normal nice open fibrous compost, because I'm hoping that will be suitable for them. And then once I've got the cuttings in there, the plan is to just pop that on there and put a bit of tape around it, and then you can remove or leave on the cap according to the level of humidity you need. So what I'll do is probably leave the cap off initially. If it looks like they're drying out inside, because I don't want to keep taking the water out, I'll probably put the cap on and just increase the humidity a little bit. But I'll know from the condensation here what the humidity level's like. So I'll probably put the cap on initially, and then if there's too much condensation in there, I'll just pop the cap off and let it dry out. So they'll have their own mini little greenhouse on it. Now, what I'm going to do with the first one here, which has got quite a large nodule here, this is not going to be particularly easy to do much with it. So I think what I'm going to do here, and incidentally I have sterilised these pliers with alcohol. I've sterilised the secateurs with some alcohol I've got here, just to make sure they're relatively disease free. I'm going to use hormone on all of them, and to see, I don't think it's necessarily a necessity on these. So I'm going to use one I've cut straight across. One of the cuttings I'm going to cut at as sharp as I can, sort of a shallow slant to expose more of the area to the air, because I think the roots will form around this area. So we'll pop that one into the little pot as well. Now the other two, I've seen another way of them treating these, and I'll try and show you without cutting myself. He speeded up the video, but I'm not going to, so it might just take a little while to do this, and sorry if it's extremely boring, but basically he peeled you can see it's green underneath, which is promising. Basically he took a knife and took off the outer bark and just scraped the surface off it like that for about an inch. Now I'm not sure if I'm doing this exactly right, because I only watched the video once. I don't know if that damaging causes it to form roots better. I'm not too sure. Now they've all been cut. They have all been cut below a joint. Of course, I won't easily know which one is which until I take them out. And again, I'm going to do the same with this one. You can see it's got a joint here. So I'm planning to take the bark off just below and up to the joint. See if you can see what I'm doing. It's a nice sharp new knife, so I think I'm just going to scrape the bark off, to be honest. I don't think there's any need to peel it off. Now these are quite healthy sized cuttings, so I'm fairly optimistic that they're still live enough to root. It's just whether or not I can give them the right rooting conditions. I don't know how much you're meant to scrape off, but I figure that will be enough. And as I said, we're just below a joint here, which is where it's more likely to produce roots. I'm going to put, as I said, all of them I'm using rooting hormone on, because I don't think it'll do any harm. I can't see it causing a problem. And because they're in a clear bottle, should any of them root, we'll obviously be able to see what happens. Now, what I'm going to try and do is, if I can manage to take these off camera without the lids blowing away. Just going to initially tape a little bit of the lid just to hold it in place. I think this is actually a double-sided tape, but it should work because I'm not planning to take the top off it. And then I'll show you what I've done once I've finished taping it roughly in place. Now this may turn out to be a complete disaster and nothing happens. Now I'll probably show the video just so people can see the method I try to use, even if it turns out that none of them root. There's a chance that they'll root anyway. So basically I've now sealed those in there. Now I could have watered them before I put that in there, but I don't think there's a need to. The soil's actually slightly damp, so I'm going to just run some water into the top of the bottle, let it run out the bottom, and then we'll put the lid in and we'll see what happens. So I'm not going to be putting out the video. I'm filming this on, let me just check the date. I'm actually filming this on the 9th of April. And I'll probably write on there 9th of April, because it'll be interesting to see if any of them root, how long it takes. I'm thinking if the cuttings don't rot and die off in there, that probably we're looking at about 6 to 8 weeks, but it'd be interesting to see what happens. And I have seen people in the UK, my friend Sham has managed to root these, but he had professional he's got proper propagating equipment, whereas I haven't. So I'm going to run some water in this and put this somewhere warm inside. I'm going to stand it actually in my propagator that hasn't got a lid, because it should give it a little bit of bottom heat, and we'll see what happens, and be interested to come back in the second part of the video and see if we have any luck. So I shall stop it for now, and hopefully see you in about 4 to 6 weeks time. So here we are on the next part of the video. This is an update on the roseapple cuttings. Now these were done on the 9th of April, and I'm filming this part of the video on the 1st of May, so it's only 3 weeks later, and we seem to have success with the cuttings. If I pull this off, you should be able to see the shoots coming out of that cutting, and there's also shoots coming out of this cutting. So we have at least 2 cuttings that are rooted, and more importantly, which I think you'll be able to see, there are roots coming out all round this miniature greenhouse, which is very exciting. See roots there as well. So we've definitely got rooted cuttings in 3 weeks, because I haven't got any roseapple plants that are still alive. Obviously I'll have to be very careful with these. I'm going to put the lid, the top back on, and tape it up again, because I want to keep the fungus gnats out, and I want to keep these in a sort of a miniature greenhouse environment for a little bit longer, until they've all taken, or I hope they've all taken. But there's certainly 2, definitely 2 that have rooted, and perhaps the others have rooted but not sent out shoots yet, but that's looking promising. Unfortunately the shoots, the budded areas are quite low down, so it hasn't got anything growing at the top, because there are no growth buds up here, although the growth bud's higher on this one. That's just the way the person's taken the cuttings. But looking good so far, and obviously I'll update you in the next part of the video, probably when I take them out and have a go at potting them up and just adapt them to the drier atmosphere, because at the moment they're very humid inside here, and I don't want to expose them to the dry air, because these shoots will probably dry off and the cuttings could die. So I'll see you in the next part of the video. Welcome back everyone, this is the final part of the video. I filmed this on the 21st of May, so it's actually exactly 6 weeks to the day after I started the video with preparing the cuttings. So I thought you'd like to see this is the final part. I won't be doing other, and interestingly I can now look at the control one where I tried to root a cutting in water. I'm going to show you the results on that. So as you can probably see, the growth in here, and I'm going to take the lid off, has progressed quite well on these now, and at least 3 of the cuttings have got growth buds on them now, so at least 3 have rooted. Now for the last week or so I've taken the lid off this to reduce the humidity, but there's still a lot of condensation in there, so I do run the risk now I'm exposing these to the air, and I'm actually going to take these out today and pop them up. There is a risk that they will suffer from drying up, but I'm hoping by leaving the lid off that it would have reduced the humidity a little bit. Now this one and this one have definitely rooted. This one has got signs of buds appearing here, so I believe that one's a success. The one down here I'm not too sure, but what I can show you is it's got excellent, they've got really good root growth in there, so they're definitely now rooted enough to try and pop them up. Whether or not I try and get any extra humidity on them remains to be seen. What I'll probably do is put a couple indoors and perhaps put a couple of them in my summer house and see what happens. It might be better if I leave the ones that haven't got proper leaves on them in my summer house, because it's probably a little bit more humid in there, and as they grow they'll adapt to the conditions. There is a chance that these leaves are going to dry off now. I might try misting them every day. But of more interest as well, given the fact that it's 6 weeks later, is this one that's in water. Now this, I did dip the stem into the rooting gel, which will have dissolved into the water, and I have changed the water a couple of times because I was worried about the water going stale. But as you can see, they have rooted. Now I didn't do any preparation on the stem on that one apart from cutting it at a slant, and in actual fact you can see that the roots have broken out from the bark above the slanted cut anyway, and below where the shooting point, the node in the stem would be, you can see the node above the roots. So it appears from this that you don't need to scrape the bark off. It probably just encourages them to root quicker, the extra damage on it. But you can literally just root these in water provided you give them the right conditions. Now this one's obviously sometime way behind the others and there's absolutely no signs of growth up there, but I think that what I'll probably do is pot this up in compost as well and leave it and see what happens. So that's been 6 weeks from the day that I started that video and prepared the cuttings, and that's the stage we're at. In fact, some of these, the shoots are about 1 inch long. As I said, I'm going to pot them up now if I can get them out of here, and there will at some time in the future, if they survive the shock of transplanting, there will be a video in the future obviously on these, and if they've continued to grow. And I'm going to try not to make the mistake. I had a wax Jambu, which is the proper tropical rose apple, or Malay apple, Java apple. They have lots of different names, but not the oval rose apple. This is more of the pear-shaped fruit, I hope. Don't know, because obviously until the cuttings grow you'll never find out. But I killed the other one from overwatering it, so I will be careful with this. So it's a bit windy at the moment, which probably won't do them any good. They'll get desiccated very quickly. But obviously I'm very pleased to have managed to root the cuttings, and the next challenge will be keep them alive a little bit longer. So that miniature greenhouse worked very well. So if you've been following the whole video, thank you very much for watching it. Please give me a thumbs up. You can share the video if you think it might be useful to anybody who would like to try and root these cuttings. I didn't use anything technical or super duper, so it can be done with very basic conditions. Please subscribe to my channel, and of course click on the bell if you'd like to know when new videos come out. I will catch up with you all in my next video. Brett out for now.